In a small, crumbling hut at the edge of the village, Sister Evelyn stood before an old man with wrinkled skin and eyes like smoldering coal. He is the native doctor, feared and respected by all. "You have what I asked for," the man growled. Evelyn nodded nervously and handed him 4 photographs, one for each member of the James family. "They are traveling tomorrow, Baba. I want their journey to end in misery." The native doctor stared at her with amusement. "Jealousy is an ugly thing, my child. Are you sure this is what you want?" "Oh, do it," she hissed, her voice trembling. "They don't deserve all that success." The man murmured incantations under his breath, throwing powder into the air as a dark wind blew through the hut. Evelyn shivered, a cold dread seeping into her bones as the man declared, "It is done. They will never reach their destination." The moon hung low in the dark sky, casting a faint silver glow over the James family's well-furnished living room. The room buzzed with excitement. Mr. James was packing the last of their bags, his broad smile glinting under the dim light. "We're finally going home after so long," Mr. James said, his deep voice carrying warmth. "This year will be different, my love." Mrs. James, dressed in a long nightgown, folded her arms as she gazed at him. She smiled faintly, her eyes showing a mix of exhaustion and joy. "Yes, dear. Mama will be so happy to see the kids." In the corner, 8-year-old Daniel and his younger sister Blessing were jumping on the couch, too excited to sleep. Their high-pitched laughter echoed, adding life to the quiet night. "Calm down, my children," Mrs. James scolded playfully. "You need to wake up early tomorrow." A phone rang loudly, breaking the peaceful moment. Mrs. James picked it up, and her face immediately softened as she recognized the voice on the other end. "Ah, Sister Evelyn," she said, her tone warm and familiar. "Yes, oh, we are coming home tomorrow." Her husband looked at her, his smile fading slightly, but he said nothing. He had told her before, not everyone needed to know their plans. "Yes, oh," Mrs. James continued, "God has been so good to us this year. We bought a new car, the kids are doing well, and my husband got a promotion." On the other end of the line, Sister Evelyn chuckled, but there was a sharpness to her tone. "Wow, God has really blessed you, my sister. Safe journey, eh?" Mrs. James smiled broadly, oblivious to the envy dripping from her friend's words. "Thank you, my sister. I will see you tomorrow." When she ended the call, Mr. James looked at her again. "You told her our travel plans again?" "Ah, it's just Evelyn, my husband. She's like a sister to me." Mr. James shook his head. "Not everyone who smiles at you means well, my dear." A few hours later, in a small, crumbling hut at the edge of the village, Sister Evelyn stood before an old man with wrinkled skin and eyes like smoldering coal. He is the native doctor, feared and respected by all. "You have what I asked for," the man growled. Evelyn nodded nervously and handed him 4 photographs, one for each member of the James family. "They are traveling tomorrow, Baba. I want their journey to end in misery." The native doctor stared at her with amusement. "Jealousy is an ugly thing, my child. Are you sure this is what you want?" "Oh, do it," she hissed, her voice trembling. "They don't deserve all that success." The man murmured incantations under his breath, throwing powder into the air as a dark wind blew through the hut. Evelyn shivered, a cold dread seeping into her bones as the man declared, "It is done. They will never reach their destination." The next morning was bright and full of life. The sky stretched clear and blue. The James family loaded their bags, coolers of food, and the children's toys. Neighbors waved goodbye as the car drove out of the compound. "Safe journey, all!" they called cheerfully. Inside the car, Blessing sang nursery rhymes while Daniel played on a tablet. Mrs. James leaned back in her seat, resting her head. Suddenly, a chill ran through her body, and she sat up. "Ah, it's cold. Daniel, reduce that AC." "But it's not even on, Mommy," Daniel replied, looking confused. Mr. James glanced at her through the rearview mirror. "Are you okay?" "Yes, just a strange feeling." Hours passed. The family are almost close to their destination. The sun began to set and the road grew darker. Mrs. James dozed off as a strange fog began to gather. It was thick, almost unnatural. Mr. James squinted at the road, gripping the steering wheel tightly. "Where did this fog come from?" he murmured. Suddenly, Daniel screamed, "Daddy, look!" Out of nowhere, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. A woman in white, with hollow eyes, her arms outstretched. Mr. James swerved violently to avoid her. The tires screeched. The car spun out of control. A loud crash shattered the silence of the forest. Back in the village, Sister Evelyn sat outside her small house, smiling to herself as she plucked maize. Suddenly, she heard cries coming from the road. Women were shouting, their voices filled with grief. She stood up, her heart pounding. What is happening? A neighbor ran past, tears streaming down her face. The James family. Their car crashed on the way here. They didn't survive. The world spun. Sister Evelyn sank to her knees as the cries grew louder. She had wanted their success to end, but now their blood was on her hands. A shadow passed over her, and she felt the cold wind that had followed the James family. The native doctor's voice echoed in her head. "Jealousy is an ugly thing, my child. Are you sure this is what you want?" The next day, the village gathered to mourn. The James family's house, once full of laughter and warmth, now sat empty.